South Africa is seeing early gains from growing trade within Africa. According to the Trade Law Center, exports under African Continental Free Trade Area preferences reached 820 million rand in 2025, supporting stronger regional trade links. The exports span a wide range of goods from mining equipment to food products, with key markets including Ghana, Kenya and Egypt. Trallex says unlocking the next phase of growth will depend on creating the right investment environment to support factory build programs in South Africa. While the gains are modest for now, full implementation of the AfCFTA could significantly expand trade and support long-term economic growth. The mining sector lost momentum in November. Production fell 2.7% year-on-year after the previous month's gain of 6%. Coal was the biggest drag, having declined by nearly 8%, alongside sharp falls in iron ore, gold and platinum group metals. Manganese ore was the standout performer, posting growth of 17%. The surprise contraction comes after months of growth. Sasol has appointed Rhidwaan Gasant as an independent non-executive director. He will take up the position from the 1st of February. Gasant is the current chair of Growth Point Properties and brings more than 3 decades of experience in finance, governance and the energy sector. He previously served as CEO of Energy Africa, financial director at Engine, and held senior roles at KPMG and Mobil. Sasol says the appointment strengthens board oversight as the group pursues a 3-year turnaround plan focused on cutting costs, reducing debt, and positioning for future growth, including green energy. BHP has reported record first-half iron ore production, even as it accepts lower prices on some sales while negotiating a new supply deal with China. Output from its Western Australia operations hit a record of 146 million tonnes for the 6 months to December, keeping the miner on track to meet its full-year guidance. At the same time, BHP has flagged higher costs at its Jansen Potash project in Canada, with the Stage 1 investment estimate rising to $8.4 billion. The miner says the increase reflects higher construction hours and material requirements as development continues. Merafe Resources has reported a sharp drop in ferrochrome production for the year to the end of December. Attributable output fell by around 63%. That's after production was suspended at the Glencore Merafe Chrome Ventures smelters due to weak market conditions. Chrome ore production was slightly lower, down about 2% for the year, mainly because of temporary equipment breakdowns, but platinum group metals concentrate production increased by roughly 5%, supported by higher feed tonnages at the venture. Motus is heading for a legal showdown with its employees. That's over plans to cut salaries and benefits by up to 30%. The Motor Industry Staff Association has declared a dispute with the JSE-listed company, saying more than 500 workers could be affected and that Motus cannot unilaterally change employment conditions. The union is preparing to approach the Johannesburg High Court to block the cuts. Motus has already retrenched nearly 100 workers as it battles weaker vehicle sales and growing competition from Chinese brands after admitting it was slow to adapt to the shift in the market. Further afield, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to hear a case that could decide whether President Trump has the power to dismiss Federal Reserve governors freely or whether the central bank remains protected by political interference as intended by Congress. Let's take a look at this report for more.
The U.S. Federal Reserve faces the biggest test of its independence in more than a century. On Wednesday, the Supreme Court will hear a case that could determine whether the president can fire the central bank's governors at will, or whether the Fed remains insulated from political pressure, as Congress originally intended. The case stems from President Donald Trump's attempt to remove Governor Lisa Cook over allegations she misrepresented information on a mortgage application. No charges have been filed, and Cook says the claims are a pretext, arguing that Trump targeted her over her stance on interest rates. John Yu is a law professor at the University of California, Berkeley.
Undeniable that the decision that they make will not just affect our economy, that it will spill over into the rest of the world due to the central importance of the Fed and just the management of the global financial system. In terms of the protections which Congress gave to the governors of the governors of the Fed have this for-cause protection, which means they can't be relieved of duty unless they've committed a crime, abused their powers, and maybe something equally as bad.
Under the Federal Reserve Act, governors can only be removed for cause, a term the law never defined, leaving room for the administration to argue that the president decides what qualifies. Legal experts say the Supreme Court could set a clearer standard, requiring evidence of serious misconduct, a compromise that avoids dismantling the Fed's long-standing protections. Cook has sued to keep her seat, and a lower court ruled she could stay pending review. Trump appealed, sending the fight to the Supreme Court, where the outcome could reshape not just the Fed, but the balance of power over U.S. monetary policy.